All right, Sooner Nation. So this weekend's game against LSU, it's not just another game. This is an opportunity, and this could be a turning point for the Oklahoma Sooners. And what I mean by an opportunity, it's an opportunity for Oklahoma to get to 7 wins in the regular season. It's an opportunity for Oklahoma to end the regular season on a 2-game win streak. It's an opportunity to try to carry some momentum going in the next season and potentially change the narrative that your season was just another wash season. You end this season with as many injuries as you had, 7-5. A lot of people might call that successful. So Oklahoma's game against LSU, it could define how we look at this season for Oklahoma. You could get 3 SEC wins. Who would have thought a couple weeks ago we'd have been talking about Oklahoma having 3 SEC wins in the conference this year? Before we dive into it, though, before we jump into it, I want to hear from y'all. Join the discussion. Jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. If you're new to the channel, make sure you guys wipe your feet. Do what you're supposed to. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. I want you guys to be a part of the community here. You guys know I like to try to interact with you guys as much as possible. But today we got to talk about Oklahoma versus LSU, and then we got to talk about the roster availability report. And that's actually where I want to start today because, listen, y'all know we've talked about this multiple times all throughout the year. We've talked about guys potentially returning, and we got one more. We got one more. And we got to talk about Andrel Anthony being on this list this week, guys. I don't know if y'all caught it. Took me a second. Andrel Anthony's no longer listed as out. He's on there as questionable. Now, if you guys remember, Andrel Anthony actually played earlier in the season, then went back out. I think I don't know all the details, and I might have them wrong, but I thought somebody said he had to have another procedure, like a cleanup or something. So that might be wrong. Go check with Sooner Scoop and those guys out there. But no, Andrel Anthony's back, it looks like. And if he's back in this game for Oklahoma, this could be a huge weapon for Jackson Arnold in a game where I think you might need to be able to pass the ball a little bit more than you did last week. I don't think you're going to be able to only pass the ball 11 times in this game and catch LSU off guard a little bit. So Brendan Thompson also listed as questionable. And this is why Andrel Anthony being back is huge. If Brendan Thompson is not available for this game, having a weapon like Andrel Anthony could be massive. Because Andrel Anthony, if you guys remember last season, before he went out in that Texas game, 27 receptions, 429 yards. He only had 1 touchdown. But, man, this guy was a weapon for Dillon Gabriel in the deep threat, right? And we know Jackson Arnold has the arm to kind of just let it go if he has those wide receivers that can just get there. So we need to give Jackson Arnold more weapons so that he can kind of have that trust, that faith that he can just like sling it out there. And, you know, maybe some of these faster wide receivers can go out there and get it. My only question is Andrel Anthony actually mentally ready, able to play, right? And what I mean by that is, like, does he trust that side, like that leg enough to be able to go out there and jump and plant on it and things like that? Like, that's what I'm wanting to see. And if so, that could be potential good news that you're getting Andrel Anthony back for next season. I've always been under the impression that maybe he wouldn't return next year, because if he didn't have enough faith and stuff to play on it this year, why would he have faith to play on it next year? So we'll just have to watch and see what's going to happen. If Andrel Anthony is back, this is huge news for Oklahoma. Obviously, you want Brendan Thompson to play too, but then you also see Javonte Barnes listed as probable. Now, this is big because obviously you guys saw the week that Xavier Robinson had against Alabama. Let's add Javonte Barnes into that mix. You could have a potential 300-game rushing week against LSU. And I know some fans are going to go, whoa. That seems a little dramatic. No, it's actually not. Like, Xavier Robinson rushed for 107 yards last week against Alabama's defensive line, which I actually think is one of the better defensive lines in the SEC. Not to mention, Javonte Barnes, we've seen him be able to have big rushing games, even when the offensive line for us hasn't played well. So I look at it and I say, okay, you get Javonte Barnes, pair him with Xavier Robinson. Maybe Jackson Arnold doesn't have to rush for 100 yards. I think those two backs, being power backs for you, can have a huge impact in this game. I think it matters a lot more than I think a lot of Oklahoma fans think. So jump in the comments below. Give me your thoughts. I actually polled this question yesterday, so you guys can jump in and let me know what you guys think. But how many yards does Xavier Robinson rush? And I said under 100, 100 to 150, or more than 150. So jump in the comments and let me know. But we got to talk about Oklahoma versus LSU because, man, you're coming off this win against Alabama. I don't think anybody was talking about Oklahoma winning this game the way we are now, but it's a night game in Death Valley, and Oklahoma fans just feel confident here. Like that's what I feel like you have. I feel like you have confidence walking into a Death Valley game at night. LSU's favored by 6. The line opened up at 6. And I think at one point it was at 6.5. I think the keys are pretty simple for Oklahoma here because we've talked about it multiple times. Oklahoma just has to be able to run the ball well. Whatever you did last week against Alabama, you need to do the same thing because teams that LSU has faced that have played that style of ball on them, they have struggled. Alabama, Vanderbilt, just to name a few. And if you look at LSU, they're coming into this game struggling a little bit. Like they were on a hot streak there for a while. They went on a 3-game losing streak, lost to A&M at A&M, Alabama at home, at Florida. They beat Vanderbilt 24-17 at home. But, you know, if you're an LSU fan, I felt like you probably wanted to win that game a little more convincingly. So Brian Kelly, I mean, rightfully deserved or not, he's on the hot seat. LSU fans are not happy with Brian Kelly. But again, Oklahoma gets an opportunity here this week to change the narrative. And, you know, I feel like there's confidence. And we saw last week when the defense realized that the offense came to play, the defense played 10 times better, right? You saw the defense kind of find that extra yip in their step. And I feel like you're going to see the same thing here in Death Valley. And you need this. Like, you need the week that you had last week, you need to have the same kind of week. You cannot walk into Death Valley and, you know, not have that same kind of intensity. So, obviously, Oklahoma's not going to be favored at all in this matchup. You're going on the road. Death Valley is an extremely hard place to play. Oklahoma still, I think a lot of people are skeptical of the offense. But again, if you change the narrative, if you go in there and you play at the level that we saw last week, this narrative going into a bowl game for Oklahoma might change a ton. So, what do I expect from Oklahoma? What do I need to see from Oklahoma? Well, we talked about it. The run game has to be there. You have to see the same kind of blocking. You have to have the same kind of game. And if Javonte Barnes is back, you have to leverage both of your running backs. And you've got to run the ball 30, 35 times on LSU, maybe 40. But then if you look at the defensive side of the ball, I need to see guys like R. Mason Thomas have their best games, whether that's putting up the numbers in sacks or getting those QB pressures. You need to see this defense make Garrett Nussmeier uncomfortable. Garrett Nussmeier is a guy that has thrown for over 3,000 yards this year. And LSU's wide receivers aren't anything super spectacular to talk about, right? And then you got to look at the defensive line. They've got to be able to hold their own. They've got to be able to stop a true freshman running back in Caden Durham from running all over. Remember, one of LSU's biggest weaknesses coming to this season outside of their defensive line was going to be the running back position. They had injuries there. This was a question everybody questioned. Xavier Robinson stepped up later in the season, 115 carries, 609 yards. So far, 6 touchdowns. Caden Durham has been an absolute monster. And you guys remember we covered him on the recruiting trail. We know what this guy is. So for Oklahoma, I feel like the game plan is pretty simple this week, right? You just got to be able to contain LSU. You got to be able to apply that pressure to Nussmeier. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you need to just do what you did last week, incorporate Javonte Barnes, maybe run the ball a little bit more. If you can incorporate some passes in there, especially if you get Andrel Anthony back, I would love to see that too. But I don't think it's a necessity unless LSU shows you they can stop the run. And if you do that, Oklahoma can go out here and win this game. And I think this is one of those games where it's kind of hard to pick. It's probably a pick 'em because I don't think a lot of people have faith in LSU, but not a lot of people have faith in Oklahoma's offense, and that's the problem. So if you're looking at this game and you ask me to call it today, I'd actually pick Oklahoma to win it by 3. I think it's going to be a really tight game. I think it'll be really close. But I think Oklahoma's defense paired with the running offense that we saw last week, I don't think if you're anybody else that you could pick against Oklahoma at that point. Like, this is LSU's kryptonite right here. We've seen LSU struggle all year. So, guys, jump in the comments below. Give me your score predictions. If you guys have made it this far and you guys have not already, make sure you guys hit that like and you guys hit that subscribe button. Hey, we'll catch you guys Sunday.